That was the first time I got crabs. Oh, hello, everyone. And welcome to History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we go back through all of human history and analyze mistakes made by terrible, silly, strange, or just confused idiots, and give you lessons you can take away so you never repeat their mistakes again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We like to make mistakes all the time, and some of them are actually really funny. This is season 4, episode 9. So we're on 89 episodes right now.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, isn't it? And just as a celebration before we get into the kind of the big stuff, we hit 50,000 all-time plays on Spotify this week.
Yeah, we did. It's awesome.
Yeah, we did. So exciting. Oh my God. And I worked that out. That's an average of 558 plays per episode.
That's not too bad.
That's not bad at all. I think if any sponsor is listening to this, they should really be getting in touch with us, because that's like 550 people that you wouldn't normally reach, because we have completely unique people that do not take into any advertising. They're completely naive and they will buy your product immediately. So we are going to charge $1,000 per 1,000 views or listens to the podcast. I think that's a decent CPM, because our audience will buy everything that you want to sell.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds totally spot on.
That's absolutely right. Joining me as ever, of course, is my amazing co-host, Derek. Derek, how have you been this week?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing all kinds of good stuff, having all kinds of fun.
Nice. That's good
stuff and things.
You've been doing a lot of painting. I've seen that recently. Bunch of like cool new paintings on the way. I love your artwork. What's your art account again?
That effing guy paints.
That's right, on Instagram.
I think that's what it is. Yeah,
that's what it is. Go out, check Derek's amazing art out. You can see it in our podcast videos as well in the background. And I'm pretty certain he will give you a deal on some of the best stuff. Stuff for sure. And while we're kind of doing a bit more housekeeping, I want to go into our patrons and give a big shout out to our OG Patreon, Jesse Christ, and also Kimberly Johnson, Andrew Zavara, and Dilly Bob for supporting us on Patreon. Thank you all so very, very much. If you would like to support us on Patreon and get access to behind the scenes stuff, things from our lives, scripts from the actual podcast itself, monthly podcast exclusive recordings, go to patreon.com/historiesgreatestidiots, and you'll also get a bunch of gifts when you join. And as you stay with us long term, we send you a gift every year that you're a special member with us. So stick around, that could be coming your way, and sign up. Also, we are on Instagram. If you go to @historiesgreatestidiots, you will find us on there. And if you'd like to view our videos, you can either do that on Spotify now, not sure how that works on the app, but you can go to YouTube and search for History's Greatest Idiots, and all of our videos are there. So you can see us in wonderful 720p. I just got a message from work. That's weird. It's a Saturday. That's not supposed to be happening. So yeah, bunch of cool stuff happening over here. I am now freelance at work. So
yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I have a cool new job title. I am now the first ever podcast whisperer.
Which is that like a cat whisperer, dog whisperer, podcast?
Essentially, yeah. So I spoke to my work and I was like, I'd like a new job title, and they were like, we kind of discussed, and we were like, why don't we go with a cool job title, because I do stuff that no one else does. And they're like, okay, well, come up with a list and we'll look through it. So I was going through this list with my wife and I was like, does this make me sound like a prick? And she's like, yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah. I was like, okay, I won't do that one then. I was like, this one make me sound like an egomaniac. She's like, oh yeah, don't do that one. I was like, okay. So there were a bunch that we came down to. Some of them included podcast Sherpa, which I thought was funny. The one that a lot of people seem to like, but they were like doing it in such a way they're like, you should seriously consider doing this. This is definitely not something we're doing to make you be a laughing stock. Podcast Unicorn Wrangler was one. So you wrangle the unicorn ideas and make them realistic, but no, that didn't work. So we went with Podcast Whisperer. So basically I work with clients for this business. I've done it like over 200 at this point, and you work with people and you kind of help them mold the podcast to what they need and like give them an effective outcome and show them how to host the thing. It's a really great part of my job. I love doing it, and I form a really cool connection with some of these like amazing high level people, and I get to talk to some really cool people in my job, you know, like actual celebrities sometimes. So yeah,
really
NDA signing level celebrities. So yeah.
And how often do you get to actually whisper?
All of the time. That was fine noise. I don't need to whisper. I'm quiet enough as it is.
No ASMR, Lev?
No ASMR, Lev. Although later on I may eat this entire cream egg. So that'll be some ASMR when I shove that giant ball of chocolate and goo in my mouth. So so interesting few weeks. We've obviously had a huge celebration. The next big horizon is going to be 100 episodes. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's right around the corner already.
That is right around the corner. That is like 6 months away. So
I've been kind of thinking about like the whole seasons and episode thing. And we don't even take breaks. We just kind of roll right on through. Like
we just keep going.
We ought to just start changing things up with each season.
We should do like season specific runs. Yeah. Oh yeah, switch sides. Maybe I'll shave all my hair off.
Well, you did that at the beginning of this one, kind of.
I did. Yeah, I chopped it all off. It all went, you know, for the people who have just joined us recently, because we've had a bunch of new followers recently. I used to have quite long hair until like 5 months ago. I can't remember. It was a nightmare in the summer with that shit.
Turned 20 again.
Yeah, that's right. Suddenly started to grow hair. It was wonderful. But yeah, no, I definitely think when we hit 100 episodes, we'll obviously be doing a special episode, but also you know, the season after that, maybe we do a slightly different thing. Maybe we change it up a bit. Maybe we spend a bit of money on production.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Money. Like we have disposable income. Like we're not all living through a cost of living crisis. Yeah, exactly. Maybe when we have that money, when we're millionaires. So we've got a couple of really interesting ones today. Derek, I know that you're really excited about talking about yours, and also I've got a really kind of interesting one that I had to check with you in advance, because I just wanted to make sure that you didn't know the person I'm going to be covering, because like if you knew them and you were like, yeah, all of that's true, but actually, you know, they're a friend of mine, I would have not covered them. But
yeah, I wasn't that big in radio out here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just it is a radio personality that we'll get to. Only the second radio personality we've covered, really. But although Alex Jones doesn't really count, but he wasn't really on radio when we covered him. He's kind of more internet personality, I guess, at this point. But Derek, who is your person? I'm really interested to find this out.
Well, you said cost of living crisis, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I've been trying to get my finances in order, trying to, you know, save some money since the cost of everything has gone up and my pay has stayed pretty much the same. It kind of got me thinking about like Scrooge McDuck, and then I started watching cartoons, and then I was like, well, what if Scrooge was real? And then I wandered down this rabbit hole, and I was like, oh, there kind of was a real Scrooge.
No way.
Kind of. Well, there was a really, really cheap dude that hoarded stuff, and he like counted his gold and was like into that kind of stuff. And so down this rabbit hole I went.
Sure. And
I'm not sure if he was an idiot, but he might have been the greatest miser to have ever existed in history. So that's why he's here.
Interesting. I like that, because we know that a lot of billionaires are quite miserly with how they spend their money. Like they're not super philanthropic in a way that they really could be with the amounts of money, but like truly miserly people who like they will argue, they will collect coupons, and like even though they're millionaires, like that kind of thing. I think that's really rare. So I like stories like this, to be honest.
You're gonna love this one.
Go for it.
So let me tell you about the unlegendary life of the cheapskate supreme, Daniel Dancer.
Okay.
He was born in Pinner, a rural area of Middlesex, in 1716. The oldest in a family of 3 boys and 1 girl.
Okay.
His father lived on Harrowweld Common on Harrow on the Hill, where he owned a property, and it produced a comfortable income of around $300 or £300 per year.
Oh, that's a very comfortable income at that time. My goodness.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a ton, or it didn't to me, but
yeah,
when I looked into it around that time, the average person was making around £19 per year.
Yeah, exactly. So he's making basically 20 people's livings right there. Crazy.
Yeah. Wow. And Daniel inherited that decent estate from his dad when he kicked it. And you'd think, hey, cool, maybe he's going to live it up and be that party billionaire thing, man.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He turned his thriftiness into an extreme sport. And God, was he weird. He was super weird about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about his fashion a little bit here.
Okay.
Because it was like next level. He didn't go all Macklemore and just pick stuff up at the thrift shop.
No,
he went all DIY fashion guru and stitched pretty much anything he could find together and made his own like Technicolor nightmare of a coat.
Wow. Love it.
Well, it was like any scrap that he could, including lint and hay and potato sack. Crap like that. It was like a kaleidoscope of colors and textures, and his pants were even worse because it was hay and rope and burlap.
Oh Jesus! Can you imagine the smell of all that together?
Oh yeah.
Outrageous.
Speaking of hygiene.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
So he liked to save money.
Yeah.
And as you would expect, soap costs money, even in the 1700s.
True.
So probably too much for Daniel. And obviously towels, forget about that. They wear out. You got to wash them. That costs money. So soap and towels, they're out the window. Instead of splurging on that, what he would do is during the warmer months, he'd wander down to the pond in town, and a couple of times a month, every other week or so, he'd wade in and get some sand off the bottom and just kind of exfoliate his face with it and soak up some sun to dry it off. Because,
I mean, listen, if you want to wash yourself in the lake or the pond, I mean, the pond is a bit fucking extreme because pond water, like that is full of all sorts of shit in this country, but like, especially in the 1760s. But like, if you live near a lake and you're like, you know what? Just going to go swim in the lake. A lot of people who in this country live by the coast, they go for coastal swims. It's freezing fucking cold. Good for them. They don't really need a bath or a shower afterwards. That's fine. But they're doing it every day. Not like once a month or season or whatever the fuck this guy's doing. He must have smelled awful.
Yeah. Like, I don't even want to think about it because it wasn't like he was having running water going at the time. And I mean, if you think about what's on the bottom of a pond, I mean, maybe mud was good. And
I mean, it's probably, I mean, compared to having just oil, grease, and shit all over your face, it's probably better, but like marginally.
Yeah, you know? I guess.
Slightly better.
Maybe.
You smell bad in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
In a less human way.
Like goose poo.
Yeah. You know, that's probably good for your pores once you can get past the awful smell. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's all clean now. And occasionally he would buy a shirt.
Good for him.
Of course, not without, haggling for the lowest prices because linen was a luxury. And, even once it was in his possession, it would be, a rag after a while because he didn't wash it. He didn't mend it. It was just wear it out. And at this point, he's living with his sister, alone with his sister. Can you live alone with somebody?
Yeah. I'd say
I don't
so.
know. He's living alone with his sister, who's just as thrifty and eccentric as him. And
they're the local crazies, aren't they? Let's be honest. They're the ones that like, oh, that lovely house on the hill. Like someone walks into the village, a tourist, like, oh wow, look at that wonderful house on the hill there. I wonder who lives there. And the locals like, don't go up there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, well, and she kind of dressed like a feminine scarecrow.
Oof,
Yeah,
man, Jesus, that's not even for the time. That would have been a bit like, oh my goodness, she's not welcome at court. She looks ridiculous. Yeah.
Dude, a lot of the time she would like wander around with a broom for like no reason.
Just holding a broom like an accessory.
Witch. Anyway, so you're probably like, hey, what happened with the inheritance in that estate? And well, that place kind of became like a rundown shack that screamed, I refuse to spend a dime on anything, pretty much.
Wow. That's bad.
It was like run down like a shack. It screamed poverty. The window panes were missing. There was makeshift paper hole, like taking the place of the window panes. Dirty rags, like filling holes in the
Gardens vibes from this.
Yeah, it was like if you were to watch a horror movie where a monster lived in a house and the monster was like didn't care about keeping up his house.
Yeah.
Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, basically.
Yeah, it's Miss Havisham from Great Expectations. Only there's like a male version as well. So
yeah, nailed it.
Basically,
perfect.
Yeah.
The roof's falling apart. There's tiles hanging on for dear life.
Pigeons making nests.
Yeah, it's pretty much like his jacket. It's all different colors and textures and just
Smells.
Put together with duct tape and bubbles. Oh, there was no duct tape back then, so hay and bubbles, bubble gum. Was there bubble gum back then?
Goose shit. Yeah. They'll have had gum. They'll have had gum or something like that. Maybe wax.
Gum, goose shit, and hay.
Goose shit and hay. Yeah, that known sticky substance.
Maybe he used some of the snuff that he used to hoard because, like, even though he didn't chew snuff,
okay,
he was so frugal that he would often bum a pinch or two of snuff from his friends just because he liked to hoard it. And
how has he still got friends? Like this guy is hoarding. I wonder. So, do you think his house was also full of like junk that might be useful at a separate time? Like, is he basically a mentally ill, very rich, ancient hoarder?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that is yes.
Kaleidoscope of images right there, just straight into my head. So I know where we're going with this now.
Yeah, well, at one point, there's even a story about a neighbor that caught him dismantling the bellows that you use to for your fireplace,
right?
To salvage the nails because he needed to use them to patch up a hole in the house with the dirty rag.
Oh, fuck! That's dark.
One of his things that he was known for saying is that undertakers and trunk makers waste too many nails.
I think that is one of the most incorrect sayings I've ever heard in my life.
Well,
I think you need nails for both of those for very good reasons.
Hey, just put it together with gum and goose shit.
Yeah, goose shit. Bits from the bottom of the lake. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
His penny pinching wasn't, only for poor clothing and home maintenance and hoarding stuff that he bummed from his friends. He also was an OG food prepper.
Cool. I like that.
He
Did
liked
he pickle stuff.
No, he would prep food for the week ahead of time in advance. He would survive for the week off of the 3 pounds of beef and the 14 rock hard dumplings that he cooked at the beginning of the week.
So he only ate beef and dumplings.
Yep, 3 pounds of beef and 14 rock hard dumplings a week, without fail, forever.
Holy shit! I wonder if he had condiments, because that would be a depressing diet. Like a little bit of mustard on there.
Condiments cost money.
Goose shit. Just fucking slather that stuff on.
Oh man,
I mean, I'm kind of starting to understand why he would smell even worse now, because if you're eating beef and dumplings exclusively, he probably shit maybe once a week. if he's
Well,
eating 3 pounds of beef a week. My
that's
God.
yeah. Well, and it's like basically like a quarter pounder a day.
Yeah.
So quarter pounder and basically a quarter pounder a day with the dumpling, which is like a bread thing, kind of.
Yeah. So like, that's not really actually, when you think about it, it's not a lot of food. Certainly
No,
not a balanced diet.
no,
Because
no.
normally, like the diets of people around this time in the UK, really interesting. Because what they would call peasants or serfs or whatever it was, a lot of these people would wake up and have like really quite healthy breakfast, things like fresh fruit, vegetables, cheese, breads, stuff like that. Like actually a really nice breakfast. And like for lunch, it would be a similar thing. Like it might be like a bunch of ingredients all in one, and then maybe some soup or something in the evening, and really interesting diets. But this guy is not. He's eating one meal a day by the sounds of it, and it's like very much lacking in nutrients.
Correct. That is true.
Yeah.
But him and his sister did dine like kings, like royalty for a
Okay.
while one
Good.
time. Lady Luck smiled down on him when he was out for a stroll one day. He stumbled upon the deceased carcass corpse of a sheep, and
Oh no.
thinking to himself that it wasn't too far gone, he drugged that thing home, and they made mutton pies that they dined on for weeks.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, buddy, that
This is
happened.
disgusting. Holy shit. And I'd imagine the carcass was probably boiled down and they made bone broth. I'd imagine the wool went to use because they're like, oh my God, I can make multiple jackets and trousers
real.
with this. Could you imagine?
I think he probably made shoes and stuff too. Jeez.
Oh
Anyway,
my God. Yeah.
well, here's the thing too: is when he did find something valuable, he was a hoarder. He liked to lock it up, like Fort Knox. So even though it was
Wow.
mutton pies, he stashed them away in his strong box because he didn't want his sister getting at him.
He didn't want his sister getting at them.
Right, because even though she loved saving money as much as him,
Oh my God.
he didn't want her enjoying too many hearty meals without him, because that was just
Ooh.
too much extravagance that she would let
course.
herself indulge in.
She might get fat because she's not eating constant beef portions.
Yeah, too much mutton.
Yeah.
When it came to her illness, she got a little bit sick. You might have guessed he wasn't about to waste any money on medical help, because why fight the will of God if she was meant to die?
Oh wow. You went that route.
Yeah, he was the king of frugality, and he spent no money trying to help her. Even with her on her deathbed, he stuck to his tightwad ways and served up his coarse beef and rock hard dumplings to her and said, "Eat it or go hungry."
Oh my God.
Around that same time, they did have a friend, Lady Tempest, who was the widow of Sir Henry Tempest, of Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
She was super generous and trying to take care of his sick sister and trying to get him to be less Scroogey.
Yeah, basically.
She wasn't super successful, but she did do her best to try to make sure that Miss Dancer had everything that she needed. She did such a good job at it that his sister did plan to leave all of her portion of the estate to Lady Tempest.
Oh, okay.
But she kicked the bucket before she could sign the will.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and then Daniel and his brothers got into a big old tussle over the estate. And after some of his legal wrangling, he walked away with most of the inheritance because he claimed it was payment for hosting his sister all of those years.
What the fuck? This guy is very adept and very successful at being an awful person, but actually when money's involved, families get really weird about it. Like all of a sudden any kind of familial connection you might have sometimes goes out the window, and that's really sad, actually.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. And this guy's really cutthroat, but he can't take some of that zest for, being successful with money and turn it into self-care.
No,
or
not even
introspection.
a little bit.
My God. Well, he's got the whole thing now. He's got the whole estate. So
yes, And Lady Tempest is in there trying everything to get him to enjoy a little bit of the good life, a little bit of his fortune now.
Okay.
And he's not having it. Like, she's trying to get him to spend some money. She's spending money for him a little bit here and there. And he's like, where's this cash coming from? How could I afford that? That's crazy. And one day her endless nagging paid off, and she finally convinced him to splurge on a new like top hat thing, right?
Oh, cool.
Because
Nice.
his old one was like 14 years old.
Okay.
Well, guess what?
Did
A
he
couple
make it
days later,
himself?
she sees him rocking around, rocking his old top hat. And when she asked, hey, where's your new one? He was like, well, I sold it for 6 pence.
6 pence.
He flipped his new hat.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how
Oh
he
my
did
God.
that. He's like, I got this perfectly good one, and I made a profit off of the one you made me buy. So
Now I can
there you
buy
go.
more beef and dumplings.
Exactly.
Yes.
Fast forward just a little bit, like a year, 19. Excuse me. Whew, a whole bunch of years.
That would
Excuse
have been life.
Yeah, it's 1794. Daniel Dancer's in the ripe old age of 78,
That's a
and
good life.
he's not doing so well. He doesn't want to see doctors because he doesn't like doctors. They're a waste of money.
Sure.
Lady Tempest goes to check on him, finds him sick as a dog, wrapped up in a sack.
A
Little
sack.
sack. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he'd had time, he'd have turned it into a pair of trousers, but she got there before he could. So
Exactly.
sack.
He was going to make a trousers and a jacket, but, he fell asleep.
I was trying to make a two-piece. Leave me alone.
Yeah, she found him wrapped up in a sack, claiming he was too poor for any better, saying he came into this world with nothing, he'll go out with nothing. And he even refused a pillow, opting for a stable litter instead.
Like, but if you have pillows, why wouldn't you just use them? Like, it's gone, like, at this point, I mean, we know he's clearly mentally ill, but
Yeah.
it's gone like he needs intervention at this point because he can't look after himself anymore.
Right. And in his room, it was filled with sticks and
Stick?
soot sheets. Like his sheets were black.
The smell
Yeah.
must have been awful. Oh
It was so gross. A total dump on the inside and outside. And it was inherited by a man named Captain Holmes after his passing, Daniel's passing at 78. And they went through the place and discovered treasure everywhere.
Yeah.
In the walls, in the chimney, even some cow dung.
Fucking hell.
I might have made that part up. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, they found 200 pounds here, 200 pounds there, 10 pounds here. Like, they found money everywhere. He just stashed it away.
Why wouldn't you? I know why. He's not well.
He liked to count his gold like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. I wonder if he dove into it like Scrooge McDuck. Like, shattered every bone in his body. Yeah. Oh my God. I've just realized I'm very allergic to gold coins. Oh no.
That's the story of the ultimate penny pincher, Daniel Dancer.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny because, I mean, there's no two ways about it. He's clearly mentally ill. I mean, the hoarding thing, there's levels to hoarding, and not all hoarders are unwell. But from what you're telling me about this guy, the level of deprivation he chose to live in, he either deluded himself into thinking he didn't have money, or he just had some mental block that meant that he was completely averse to spending any money on anything. I would love to know what happened in his childhood to have made him this person, because it's not just him, it's his sister as well. So clearly there's something going on in that family that have made them both severely mentally ill in a very specific way. So I don't know. Like, it's interesting because we look at historical figures who have had a lot of money, and sometimes they have really quite difficult childhoods. The kind of childhood where you're like, oh wow, I'm surprised you're not a serial killer actually, but they just ended up being hugely successful business people, which, levels of psychopathy in both. But I wonder if something happened in his early life or his family's life that made them so frugal that they would stash literal money in the walls, but let the building collapse around them.
Isn't that weird?
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing that's holding it up is the money. The coins in the wall, the foundations of the thing.
Yeah, it's. And I did read that his father was also a stingy, thrifty person, but not quite to like that level.
No.
The house was in good repair. It was
Right.
more of like, you there may have been some sort of trauma or something that stuck, something that happened early where he was like, you can't spend that money, and he was like, oh my god, I can never spend money again,
and I'll never spend money.
Yeah.
I wonder, because the interesting thing with this Holmes character who inherited the home, like you inherit a home like that and you're like, oh my god, this is going to be a money pit where I am going to lose like my entire life savings on this house because it is such a disaster. I might as well rip it down. But then as you go through, you discover all of this money stashed away. And you're like, actually, I've got more than enough here to repair the house and make it livable again. So swings and roundabouts, I guess. But like, could you imagine inheriting an enormous house like that? Because £300 a year, like they would have been the richest people in the town by a significant margin, I would imagine. Inheriting all of that stuff and then thinking, oh my god, the amount of time and money it's going to take to repair this and bring it up to a Liverpool standard is awful and terrifying for sure.
Yeah, but
I don't really know how to score this person. I think the lesson from this is obviously when you realize, and I think we've come to a certain point in society where we can spot this earlier, but when you see someone who is becoming a hoarder or who is showing signs that they are deteriorating mentally with their mental health, it's important to step in before it becomes like an entire all-consuming lifestyle that is detrimental to their life and quality of living. And that's what happened here, but that didn't exist back then. And also for anyone to, like you said, Lady, what's her name?
Lady Tempest?
Lady Tempest, yeah. She clearly understood that something was wrong and she tried to help out. But if anyone below her station in life were to have been like, listen, why don't I come and help you? You're struggling. That wouldn't have been allowed because like it was a very class structured society at the time. So you couldn't have said anything. I'd imagine the only person that could have told this guy to get his shit together would have been the king. And even then he would have been like, oh, I do apologize, Your Majesty. I'll clean everything up. But yeah, I think the fact that he could have done more with this money, especially in like the community or for his relatives or for people, like maybe improved his businesses or just improved the world around him. But that is going to bump the score up. But the fact that he's clearly got a mental illness is going to bump it back down again. So I'm going to go with an even 50 on this, I think.
Okay.
Because he could have had a huge impact on the world. There's clearly like some natural intelligence there and skill because the family are very successful at running this estate, and it continues through the generations, which is obviously a sign of business acumen. But at the same time, they couldn't capitalize on the kind of the riches, the success that they had. They couldn't do anything with it because there was just this barrier between them and the rest of the world. So just a shame, the whole, he could have started other industries, employed other people, created environments where people could have been educated better or had a bigger church to worship in or had better quality food to eat or whatever it might be, but chose to stuff it in his walls and his chimney and shit.
He could have bottled the goose shit from the bottom of the pond and sold it for millions.
Hair pomade. A la goose. It's
Goose moose.
Goose moose. Oh my god. Goose moose. The advert writes itself. Soul glow. Yeah, it's a really sad story. And actually, that's not uncommon these days. You still hear of people who like die alone in rundown conditions, and then like you find like a fucking Superman #1 in their loft, that's worth $3 million or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and this sort of situation and the hoarder situation, it does bum me out because I have a friend that works up in Seattle and he works in mental health housing
right.
facilities, and he talks a lot about going in to houses like this guy's house, but
Mm,
obviously they're not fortunate enough to have an estate that pays them to survive on,
yeah.
3 pounds of ground beef and dumplings. But yeah, it is sad to
Yeah.
just have people having to fend for themselves out there when they shouldn't have that quality of life. They should have somebody helping them.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we do live in a society where there are more options for people to have help now, and there is more recognition of help. But it's just sad that we didn't get there earlier. That psychology is still such a relatively new, discipline. We're only 200 years into it. So if this person had had help and there'd been a group of people around that could have helped them get back on their feet and maybe help them make better financial decisions without them going, "How dare you? You're beneath me," or whatever, then that would have been cool, but wasn't to be, I guess, in this case. And we just end up with like you say, a literal Scrooge McDuck.
Yep.
Because even Scrooge, like the original Scrooge from the Dickens story, like he at least bought nice clothes,
Yeah,
and
he
that
seemed like he
motherfucker
was put
lived
together.
well. He just
Yeah,
didn't
he had a
spend
nice
money on
house.
other people. He was happy to spend money on himself, but like, no, I'm going to pay you like shit and you're going to have to deal with it. But like, at least he was like living in a nice house and getting food delivered and wearing a big like night hat thing, So,
Right. Well, yeah, the story would have been really sad if he was eating hard dumplings and wearing a burlap jacket with made of
exactly.
hay.
I'm pretty certain that even Charles Dickens would have been like, I think this person might be mentally ill.
Yeah.
Like even back then, he would have been like, "There's clearly something wrong with your makeup, sir, that you are living in these conditions." But no, actually, the story of Scrooge is like, "Oh, he was a selfish bastard that learned a lesson." So yeah, my guy. We've been on this kick recently, and I should remind everyone that we have been trying this season to be a little bit more. How can we do this? We've been trying not to come down so hard on people and maybe give them a bit more understanding and space and maybe kind of try and see from their perspective and and that kind of thing. Just be a bit more open-minded about why people sometimes make the mistakes that they do. But with the person I'm about to talk about now, it's really difficult to find any reason or justification for like the constant level of like really awful behavior. And I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and I want to say that he's probably a decent person with a lot of people that we just don't hear about. But a lot of this stuff, you're like, wow, just kind of seems like he's only out for himself. Anyway, let me tell you the story of Todd Allen Clem, better known to other people as Bubba the Love Sponge. Yeah, what a name.
I didn't know his name was Clem.
Todd Allen Clem. If it'd been Todd Allen Clam, that would have been even better because you could have gone from clam to sponge. We'd be like, oh, it's a whole like oceanic experience with these names. But no, his real name is Todd Allen Clem. Although he does have a federal, what's the word? Copyright for the name Bubba the Love Sponge. He spent $5,000 on that.
I feel like he missed the opportunity to be the Bubba the Love Clam.
Yes. There's so much comedic possibility there. And we'll get to why he's called the Love Sponge in a bit, because I think it's bullshit. But anyway, we'll get to it now. So Todd Allen Clem, yeah, that's right, I had to check then, Clem, was born on 23rd of April, 1966 in Warsaw, Indiana. His father was a factory worker and his mother, Jane Edmond, a school bus driver and Warsaw City Department head. I guess like that's like the local council or something.
Okay.
I'm going to guess. He has a sister, Tara. So you got Todd and Tara Clem. That's kind of feels like a good fictional character's name.
A little bit.
The
where did you say they were?
Where were they? They're from Indiana.
Okay.
So, Warsaw, Indiana. The Clem clan.
Virginia.
not far from Virginia. There is a bit of movement as well. So Clem's parents divorced when he was young, really quite young. So, we talked about, we wish you knew what happened with Scrooge McDuck over there with his early life. We know that Bubba the Love Sponge's parents divorced when he was very young. So I'd imagine that that's like probably affected his behavior from quite a young age. And divorce, we're still only now understanding the impact it has on like young children, and how later in life it can shape their personality and the way they react and interact with other people and stuff. And I think this kind of paints a lot of what we're about to talk about. You're like, okay, he's a child of divorce from a young age. So that probably, makes a bit more sense anyway.
Okay.
In 1984, Clem graduated from Warsaw Community High School. He attended Indiana State University in Terre Haute, Indiana, with a plan to go into dentistry.
Oh, he wanted to be a dentist.
He wants to be a dentist. Can you imagine this guy's a dentist? That I would just put me under. Please just fucking put me under and shut up. But his best friend, Larry Plummer, I just wish he was called Larry the Plumber. I feel like that's
right. It should have been, or Joe.
Opportunity missed, Joe the Plumber.
I feel like that sounds familiar. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He told his friend Larry Plummer told him he was better suited to a radio career, and he dropped out in his second year in university. Now, I feel like you and I have both probably had times in our younger years where we've had this exact same conversation with someone where we knew we wanted to do something like that in radio. Mm-hmm. And then someone was like, you'd be really good at that. And you're like, right, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah. Well, to me, it was, oh, yeah, that's what you want to do? Yeah, you got a face for radio.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so harsh.
People suck.
Yeah. I was just like, I made my mind up very early on. I was like, I think I like this. I like communicating with people. That's what I'd like to do. And I did it. And wow, it's kind of crazy how these things work out, because this drove him on a path. And I think he was kind of waiting to hear something like this. He was just like, I don't really want to be a dentist. It's just sort of what I'm expected to do. So as soon as he heard, dude, you should be on the radio. You're amazing. Perfect for radio. He was like, right, well, I guess I'm doing this then. Clem had a position at the campus radio station WISU Wissoo. But before he became a full-time disc jockey, he worked at a van conversion shop where he laid down carpets. Lol. He laid carpet. He also, this time, he was coaching his former high school as a football coach.
Okay.
And yeah, I've got to be honest. If you asked me, an uninformed foreigner, to picture a high school football coach, it would probably be Bubba the Love Sponge. Like, there's something about him that makes me go, yeah, like that sounds like his role. Maybe if he was taller and less of an arsehole, but
I gotta. Okay, yeah, now I remember what he looks like. Found it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Guy Fieri, only with black hair and 55 extra pounds or something like that. So
correct, sir.
Yeah, and it's just like the guy who would wear the Oakley sunglasses and like shout at people and stuff. He comes off as, like, for me, a high school football coach, I think. So yeah.
Let's see.
Probably less empathy than most.
I'll share it for the people that.
Yes. For the people who are watching the podcast on Spotify, this is what Bubba the Love Sponge looks like. Yeah. Like, you take away all the bling in this picture, and you put on like a high school like coach's jacket and maybe a baseball hat. That guy is easily a football coach. He was probably like a decent high school player who like found his way into different things, but then he was like, I want to still be around the old school, and I kind of want to help the next generation and stuff, and settle down with my wife and my kids and my picket fence. But no, wasn't to be for Bubba. In 1986, Clem worked as a bouncer and driver at Jubilation nightclub, where he picked up radio DJ Scary Kerry Gray, of whom he was a fan, and took him to the club. We're going to find out later on if his credentials as a bouncer stack up. Spoilers, they don't. Yeah. Once there, Clem noticed people gravitating towards Gray, the DJ. Gray gave Clem an on-air shift as an April Fool's Day joke. On April the 1st, 1986, at WPFR FM in Terre Haute as Rockin' Bubba Clem. A name someone else had suggested. That's a shit name, but somehow it's still better than Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah, well, it's Rockin' Bubba. Like, I mean, yeah, it's
okay.
Better than Bubba the Love Sponge. Rockin'
Bubba the Love Sponge.
Bubba Clam.
Bubba Clem. That's a good name.
Yeah.
That's memorable. That rolls off the tongue. Bubba the Love Sponge.
No.
It's like, no.
The Sum 41.
Yes, that's true. Actually, you mentioned Sum 41. I was looking at that picture you put of Bubba the Love Sponge up, and I was like, oh my God, was he in Smash Mouth?
Yeah, just about,
looked like a member of Smash Mouth so much. Clem became Gray's intern, making studio visits, answering phone calls, sitting in on the show, probably like running errands and kissing his ass. I don't know. He accepted a position hosting weekends soon after and began a part-time midday shift starting on Christmas Day in 1986. Everyone in radio, like, if you can cover Christmas, you'll do quite well.
Yeah, my first shift was New Year's Eve. I don't know how. And then Christmas, Thanksgiving, any holiday that nobody wants to work.
Oh yeah. Took that shift. I worked one December in 2006. I worked every single day except New Year's Eve, and I made £6,000 that month. It was a good month, but I was also doing multiple stations and covering like live sporting events. So I was like, basically I was working 12-hour days, but doing like 2 radio shows and like a sports thing in the evening as well. So I was working a lot. I got so fat and lazy that month, eating like, because I was just eating turkey sandwiches the whole time. I was just eating them in rotation. I was a bit like your guy with the beef and the dumplings, but it was turkey sandwiches. Apparently he became the station's managing director, according to one account, but I can't find any sources on that. And
really?
It would really surprise me if a part-time midday shift DJ can make the jump to like the managing director of an entire radio station. So I'm going to call bullshit on that one. I don't think that works for me.
I guess it depends on the market.
True. If it's a small market, then, you know, I guess having a guy who's only working midday when there's not really a huge audience around, that's like, you know, kind of a bit of a lull. So I'd imagine, you know, he could probably have 2 jobs, maybe. Yeah. At a fraternity party, the DJ, Gray, called Clem a love sponge after witnessing the female attention Clem received. I'm not buying it.
Why?
Yeah, that's not
okay.
Because I'd imagine he maybe harassed women by following them around. Maybe that's what they meant by that.
Maybe they thought he was in Smash Mouth.
Yeah, maybe they did. They're like, oh my God, is that somebody? Well, no, it's a different person. This part of the article, I'm like, I don't buy it. That's making Bubba the Love Sponge sound like Wilt Chamberlain, and I'm just not having it. You know, no. I don't buy it at all. Anyway, after WPFR, his first like major gig, Clem had a stint at WGRD. You're going to hear a lot of stations called W something.
Yeah, he's on that side of the Mississippi. He's an East Coast guy.
Yeah, exactly. This is Grand Rapids, Michigan. But he was fired on December the 21st, 1988, after a 13-year-old girl called into his show and Clem made sexual remarks towards her. That's really stupid. Like, even in 1988, like you can't be doing that. So, first scandal, but like, I guess it's the 80s, people wouldn't know, so he can just move to a different market and people will just be like, oh, you know, whatever. In 1989, Clem landed a spot at KTFM in San Antonio, Texas, where he was encouraged to trademark his air name and borrowed $5,000 from his parents to file a federal trademark for Bubba the Love Sponge. Should have saved his money.
Like, I don't think anybody's coming after that.
No.
What a dumb name.
I know. Like, why
Whatever.
would you trademark that? Like, they could have spent that money in so many other better ways, or just like come up with a better name. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the Bubba part is good, but the Love Sponge bit, it's like it's really specific
Yeah.
to a moment in this guy's life. Like, it doesn't have any mass market appeal. What the fuck is a Love Sponge?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really make any. Yeah.
It doesn't work at all. Anyway, he's now trademarked it, so he is now officially Bubba the Love Sponge. He even changes his name to Bubba the Love Sponge legally at a certain point in time. I've not included the date, but that actually happened, which is like, that's just so sad. He worked evenings at WBBM FM in Chicago, followed by a stint at WIOQ in Philadelphia from March to June 1990. The station let him go as management thought his style was not what they were looking for. So you'll be more familiar with his style. And I'm guessing this is around the time of like 1990. Howard Stern's a big deal at this point, and he's been a big deal for a while. And you've got people like Don Imus, who's also like a huge deal as well.
Yeah. You got Mancow Mueller going on at the same time.
Yeah, huge names in American radio around about this time when it was a new peak. Yeah,
starting out.
I guess you've still got people like Casey Kasem as well, who's like super popular as well.
You say this 92?
1990.
1990. Okay. Yeah.
I'm Casey Kasem. Like that voice, we heard that in the UK. We heard of Casey Kasem. Mostly through Ghostbusters, but yeah, and also a cut Saturday Night Live skit, which was going to be Bill Hader and another guy who did voices, and it was going to be Casey Kasem and JC Kasem, his son. He was like, "Hi, Dad. I'm JC Kasem, and I'm outside. I'm not going through the trash. It's not a raccoon. It's your son, JC Kasem." So it's going to be a whole thing. Get away from me, son. We've cut you off from the family. So yeah, there's a lot of big famous radio personalities. I'm just wondering, because the Shock Jock is doing really well at this time, special buzzers, segments, stuff like that. Do you think, is this what Bubba was?
The start of the morning zoo, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like with a name like Bubba the Love Sponge, he would have been that guy. Because I feel like Howard Stern is very good at certain aspects of his show. Like, he has kind of created this incredible, media personality based on what he did throughout his radio career. But there was a level of talent with that was actually very difficult to replicate, and a lot of people tried. I feel like Bubba is one of those guys who tried very hard to be another Howard Stern, but wasn't as talented or as intelligent, and it didn't quite work. But he was popular with a specific market. So
Florida.
Teenagers, drunk people. So yeah, we haven't quite got to Florida yet, but so he was let go by WIOQ because he only worked there from March to June. The station management said his style was not what they were looking for, but like I relate
there.
Yeah, but like they signed him, and like he didn't change his style, so he decided to take legal action and received $75,000 from WIOQ in 1990. That's the equivalent of $180,000 in 2024 money. That's a big old paycheck. And I was immediately like, how did he get that? But actually, if you think about it, they're like, we're going to sign Bubba the Love Sponge, we're going to put him on air. And then 3 months later, they're like, nah, your style's not working. He's like, this is who you hired. Like, I was this person when you hired me, and now you're just getting rid of me. That's bullshit. So he won a big amount of money.
Yeah, it seems like definitely for a morning show, you get a contract, and
for sure,
your contract's not going to be 3 months.
No, it's not. It's going to be at least a year. For sure, possibly multiple years, depending on how successful you are. But yeah, $75,000, that's like back in 1990, that's a house. That's a good house, for sure. So good for him. But from here, Clem worked nights at WXXL in Orlando, Florida, where he averaged, this is really sad. I guess it's nights, but he averaged 53,000 regular listeners I, I did nearly double that in rural parts of the UK. Like, that's not a lot, even for nights.
I don't know if I had that many listeners, and I was in Phoenix.
I know well, I
Sorry.
was networked. I was syndicated. So I was part of a network. So
I'm self-deprecating.
That's okay.
But what is that called?
Yeah, you were right. Deprecating.
Okay.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Defecating.
I'm self-defecating. That's me. I'm the self-defecating one. So 53,000 regular listeners. He left the station in May 1991. He's not staying around very long in these places, like a few months at a time, at most a year. But that's the life of an itinerant, like, radio presenter a lot of the time.
Yeah,
in these
you think
places.
he's pissing people off, or you think it's just ratings suck?
I think it's like it's probably a combination of, you know, a lot of DJs don't last long in markets. They usually, you know, sometimes they get sacked. Also, he seems to be a bit of a nightmare to work with, and also, you know, he probably doesn't want to outstay his welcome, so he just keeps moving until he finds the sweetest gig. And he goes from Florida in August 1991. He returns to Chicago for WYZT as the morning host, but the position lasted under 3 months before management rebranded the station. Ooh. And he was gone as part of the rebrand, which is like 3 months here, 3 months there. It must be downheartening, for him to be moving on like this. September the 1992 rolls around. Clem starts working from 7 till 11 p.m. at WFLZ FM in Tampa, Florida, where his show gained huge popularity, particularly amongst teenagers. So he's like warming them up for the nighttime thing. This is 1992. You know, people are still going out. They're having a good time, even teenagers. And this is kind of his first major deal, I think. They're like, we want you to hang around. So,
yeah, I want to say this is about the time where I became aware of him, and I wasn't even in Florida.
Exactly. So he's starting to make a name for himself, and later on this year, he signs a contract with them worth $100,000 a year, which is around $222,000 in 2024 money. So decent, very good money. Not like nationally syndicated money, but like for a local Florida market, that's good money right there. Yeah, for sure.
Better than I made in Phoenix.
For sure. Like, and better than I ever made. Like, even in the height, like I had to work for like 3 different stations to make those big bucks, you know.
I would have had to work for 32 different stations to make.
Oh my god, radio was so poorly paid when we were around. Like, we should have been around the early 90s. That was the time to get paid.
I'll go out and say that I wasn't that great at it. I'm better now.
Yeah, I think everyone gets better with age, to be honest. I don't think radio presenters are generally very good when they start. I just happen to have graft, and that's like half of the thing. Is like, you're young, you'll work every single shift, and that's how you improve your craft. You work more, you get better at it. So Clem and his fellow WFLZ host Tom Steele, the person who would immediately follow him from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., were temporarily suspended to settle legal issues from their ongoing on-air feud. It got so bad, this like little feud that they had to juice each other's ratings, that it actually became legitimate problems, and they had to do legal stuff to remedy it. Promotions director for the station, Robert Wagman, was quoted at the time as saying, "I would have to say their jobs are in jeopardy. It's gotten to the point where we'd like to keep it off the air, but it's gotten so big that we can't keep what's happening off the air, the feud, and I can't get into any of it." That sounds really fucking serious to me.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, whether there was a physical altercation, or whether somebody said something, or whether there was like threats, or I don't know, but it sounds really serious. But anyway, they settled it in court, and I don't think they ever really spoke again. So
Bubba banged his mom.
I love Sponge, your mother. God, I hope not. I really hope not. Maybe he threatened to. Maybe that was the thing. Because Bubba he likes to make threats. We'll get into that later on. Clem became involved in various business ventures around this time. In December 1994, he invested $50,000 to open Sponges, an alcohol-free nightclub for teenagers in Largo, Florida. He opened a second Sponges in Spring Hill in 1995. I sincerely hope everyone in the greater Largo and Spring Hill area stayed well away from that nightclub.
I feel like that's just a bad idea.
Bad fucking idea. Like, I understand, and actually it's a thing in this country where some nightclubs do like teenage night, and they'll take away the alcohol and they'll just have soft drinks and stuff, but it's just like there's never anything good that comes out of that. There's always fights, there's always drama, there's always issues around safety and stuff, and just like, why would you get involved with that business? I understand that that's your core audience, but there are ways to connect with that audience that don't involve getting them in a enclosed space in darkness where, let's not kid ourselves, they've probably drunk before they got there. So
yeah, pre-game, duh.
They've pre-gamed for sure. Like, that's really dangerous. He also performed at the venue with his rap band, Boys with the Bass. This guy is really bad at naming shit.
Yes, he is. He's so the worst namer since, who's that guy that who was the guy you just covered the other? He just was horrible at naming shit.
Oh God, was that the last episode?
It wasn't the Sex Pistols guy, was
it? Malcolm McLaren, who managed the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols.
Well, Bubba the Love Sponge is terrible at naming things.
He is. And also, no, I think it was the guy. It was the guy I covered last month, who last episode, who was like constantly after big books, and they called him Measurement.
Yes,
William or something, or Measurement Wallace instead of like 12-inch Willie, which would have been a much better name. But Measurement Wallace or whatever his name was.
Thank goodness they didn't call this the Sponge Hole.
The Sponge Hole. That would have been a better name for the nightclub than Sponges. I feel. I mean, I get it. Sponges, Sponge Hole. None of it's going to work. But he's got a brand. He's trying to get it out there in the early 90s. It's never going to work. He's also got a bunch of other businesses. He is involved in an endorsement deal with an Isuzu car dealership. There's also the Bubba the Love Sponge limousine service. I bet that's fucking nightmarish. And a personalized paging service called the Air Bubba Beeping Network, and premium rate telephone lines. This is the most 90s list of businesses I've ever heard in my beepers. Premium phone lines.
It was like he got one of those little things where you do that thing and you're like, I'm gonna have a limousine and 4 kids.
I'm gonna have an Isuzu car dealership endorsement. What the fuck? He's got like the magic 8 ball. Should I endorse Isuzu? Maybe. There we go. That's good enough. 50 grand.
I'm gonna have a pager company.
I'm gonna have a pager
900 company.
And what can you imagine calling the premium rate line? It's just Bubba going, all right, hello, like that on the phone. It's honestly, it's the most 90s list of businesses ever. He's doing well though.
Yeah,
he's earning over $2 million a year at this point.
Oh,
yeah, these businesses are doing well. I mean, he's barely involved with them, but he's making money off them.
I give my score a 90. History's greatest idiots, because all of these people do way better than me in life.
I don't think that's the case with this guy. In June 1995, Clem released an adult-oriented home video, Let Your Chia Run Wild.
Well, here's the thing you don't do. Go from teen-oriented businesses into adult video.
Yeah, it's softcore porn as well. This is like
with
slightly
cheerleader.
Before. Yeah, this is like slightly before Girls Gone Wild.
Okay,
so it's a precursor to that. It's described as a private collection of evening events documenting a lifestyle that some can only dream of and featuring some nudity. That's disgusting. Hopefully not him.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Imagine. Clem regretted his decision to release it, and WFLZ requested he cease and desist in the distribution, and this like really damaged his relationship with them. He's like, I was just trying to make money off porn. They're like, no, you appeal to teenagers. Don't do that. So in April 1996, he opened Bubba's Beach Club, a dance club and night spot in Ybor City, YBOR. That's like a Welsh name. Holy shit. Weber City.
He finally named something, right?
I know. Holy shit. That's actually a decent name. Bubba's Beach Club. That probably did quite well. In September 1996, Clem quit WFLZ. I would love to know how many of those businesses made money. Because it reminds me a lot of the Paul brothers, you know, who are like scamming their teenage audience with like NFTs and fucking crypto shit and stuff like that. But this guy's doing actual businesses. So
yeah,
it seems to be working.
God, the pivot though, like you got to know your audience, and then like, come on, man.
Also, how many different businesses do you need? Like maybe focus in on one area or one part of your brand, or have someone specialize in that, because like that's your avenue out. You become an expert in that field over time. Anyway, Clem decided to remain in Tampa partly because he had all these business ventures going on. He started a morning show at WXTB in December 1996 and continued to host a pre-recorded show that was syndicated in 6 other cities, including Cincinnati, Toledo, Columbus, Louisville, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. I bet he made a packet from that because syndication is where it's at. Oh my god,
yeah,
that's the big residuals you get, big amounts of money from that. In June 1997, Jacker Communications was fined $4,000 for airing Clem's discussions of having sex with a lesbian couple on February the 25th.
You can't talk about that?
Apparently not. I'm going to suggest that maybe because it's not true. Because
okay, yeah, that would.
Who believes that? I mean, come on. You know,
well, at that point, are they like? I guess I don't know the terminologies on it, but like
they are lesbians. Bubba the Love Sponge is a love sponge, a male love sponge. I don't know. I don't believe it. I think it was a shock thing, and I'd imagine the fine, which is relatively small, $4,000, it's probably brought more attention to a show, so it was probably a deliberate thing. To be honest, it's about to get worse though. In October 1998, Citycasters, WXTB's owner, was fined $23,000 for various broadcasts. Yeah. Including one from May 1997 that included one of the crew describing their enema experience. Given that's to be honest though, I don't see why that would really offend any. It's very medical. Like maybe they shoved a pipe up there. Maybe like given the amount of times I've spoken about my Crohn's disease on this podcast, I might lose the fucking house. You know,
yeah, but you're not talking on the radio.
That's true.
I don't want to hear that while I'm out, like because you're listening to the radio in the office, and there I could have been having a donut.
Sure. A chocolate covered donut. Yeah, I can see now why that's the case. Anyway, this was also followed by another $4,000 fine for a June 12th, 1997 show that had a woman masturbating over the phone, which I feel like Howard Stern's done as well. Yes. Yeah, and a $7,000 fine in 1999 for a May 28th, 1998 segment that involved a caller ordering a sex doll. Now, I understand the first one, you know, someone having an orgasm on air. You know, you've got a family, kids in the car. You don't really need them hearing that. But the second one sounds pretty innocuous, to be honest.
To be fair, though, Rob Zombie's album was out by then. And Living Dead Girl is a thing, and that is my favorite song to roll the windows down and turn up next to old people that I like.
Mine is Richard Cheese. Just anything by Richard Cheese, like I'll roll the windows down and play that. I just can't imagine the second conversation because obviously, like, it's a prank phone call-in thing, and those are common in radio, but it just sounds really innocuous. Like, just someone calling and go, "Yeah, I'd like to order one sex doll, please." Yeah. Okay, great. Do you have that in blue? Or like, you know, like it doesn't sound that bad.
Did he describe like the anatomies of it? Maybe.
Probably.
Did he?
I need to have
big flappy.
Yeah, I need it. How inflatable is it?
Yeah.
By mid 1999, Clem had received 4 Billboard Personality of the Year awards.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a lot. He was allegedly earning 6 figures. I think it's probably more like millions at this point, and owned 2 nightclubs. One of them was called Planet Bubba, Spring Hill. Planet Bubba, Jesus Christ, man. His radio show crew included at this point Mike Cowhead Calter, Mike Manson Waters, Whitney No Nickname Pippin, because she's a woman, she didn't get a nickname, Scotty the Body, Matt Spice Boy Lloyd, Nita, also no nickname because she's a woman, Wad, and Ned. Just Ned.
Okay.
Just Ned. Right at the end there. November 2000, Clem was a candidate, or he put himself forward as a candidate to succeed the Pinellas County Sheriff. There's nothing more on that, so I'm assuming he became the second most obnoxious sheriff in history behind Joe Arpaio.
Yeah, I guess it makes perfect sense.
I mean, if Joe Arpaio can become a sheriff, then Bubba the Love Sponge can become a sheriff.
I bet you he was better at it.
He probably would have been better. Like Joe Arpaio, again, like a very irredeemable person, to be honest. So yeah, Bubba would have been a better sheriff. In January 2001, Clem's show entered national syndication on stations in Jacksonville, Orlando, Hartford, West Palm Beach, Fort Myers, Wichita, Kansas, Shreveport, and Macon, Georgia. Big money now. National syndication, yeah, across multiple.
He's all over.
Yeah, he really was. And again, like we're entering the 2000s, radio is starting to decline, but no, not fast at all. You know, this is the Napster era, so the internet's still like really far behind the game in this. Now it comes to the second biggest scandal of his career, I think so. Anyway, in February 2002. Clem was faced with animal cruelty charges following the February 27th, 2001 broadcast, which featured Bubba's Roadkill Barbecue. The show involved the on-air castration and killing of a feral hog a hunter had captured in the station's parking lot. I don't know. And sound effects of hogs feeding were broadcast to have listeners believe it was being harassed and aggravated. So they like added sound effects to make it sound more distressing. Right. Just kind of fucked up. The hog was cooked and eaten by the crowd present on air. Clem and his executive producer, Brent Hatley, and the two others present were charged with felony animal cruelty. A jury acquitted them in March. Okay. Yeah. I'm guessing probably one of two reasons, because A, it's either fake. I'd imagine he said, look, it's just a stunt. We didn't actually kill this pig in the parking lot. We went to a butcher's and bought it, or whatever it was. Or, you know, they were like, this is Florida. We all do that for breakfast anyway. So that I did that this morning. I'm not going to find you guilty. Anyway, in January 2004, the FCC, this is where it gets really serious, issues a $755,000 fine to Clear Channel Communications for objectionable comments from July 19th, 2001. Here comes the inflation math again. $1.3 million in 2024 money. Yeah. Big money.
Yeah.
The fine consisted of the maximum $27,500 fine for each of the 26 stations that aired the segments, plus $40,000 for record-keeping violations, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, they weren't happy with the segment at all. The segment...
Are you going to tell me about the segment now, or is this?
It wasn't the pig thing. It was worse. Okay. I mean, I say it's worse. It sounds really weak, but I guess like children's characters, audience, stuff like that. The segment involved sexual discussions among the cartoon characters Alvin and the Chipmunks, George Jetson, and Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Amongst others. So one segment cost the network $750,000 in fines.
I feel like this is in the chicken shit heyday of the FCC, though.
Oh yeah,
I think
they're like chasing money at this point.
Yeah, because I've done worse radio stunts than that, and I've never done anything like that.
They can't touch us. We're based in the UK, and Ofcom don't give a shit about like the cartoon character sex. No, not at all.
It's silly. Like one of my first radio stunts that I ever did, and we were just talking about this on the morning show when I was on the other day with Beef, is he came on pretending to be Steve-O from Jackass because he kind of sounds
He
like
sounds exactly like Steve-O. Holy shit.
right. But he came on and pretended like he ate this burrito and then snorted his feces off of a plate.
Right.
And it was disgusting and horrible. And people called in and were mad. And it didn't really happen. It was a radio stunt to get a reaction and make people upset.
So
I didn't get fined, though. It's way worse than cartoon sex discussion.
Yeah. So one segment I did, you say he didn't do that. Obviously, he's not going to snort feces. I had my producer get into a cab, and I talked to the cab driver in advance, and I basically got him dropped off in the middle of nowhere and abandoned. And I was like, right, now you got to get back here. Hurry up. And I put calls out on air. I was like, listen, I think Osama bin Laden has been spotted in this part of the northwest of England. If anybody sees someone walking along the roadside, I think you need to be careful that might be a terrorist. But obviously it was just a joke. But yeah, eventually he got back to the station, bunch of hitchhiking, didn't get murdered by a crazy person once. And he even brought McDonald's with him. So that was
there you go.
That was a decent deal in the end. Like, thank you for dropping me in the middle of nowhere. Here's some greasy food. So as a result of this fine, Clem was fired on February the 23rd. At the time, he had the #1 show in the Tampa area in the 18 to 54 male demographic. So basically all of the men that weren't listening to, like, you know, old-timey radio.
Right.
Much. I guess, like, even if you're the #1 person in a market, no one is worth a fine of that magnitude. Like, that is a huge amount of money. That's like your advertising budget for half the year gone.
Like, he legit got canceled.
Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't even like an outcry from the public. The FCC came down hard on him, and the station got rid of him. No public outcry whatsoever. It's
what
just
year was
him
this?
Gone. This is 2004.
Oh, man. Interesting.
So, yeah, 20 years ago now. And
censorship, huh?
Yeah, much worse back then. In July 2004, Clem announced he would run again for the Pinellas County Sheriff. Did he win? No, of course he didn't. In September 2005, Howard Stern announced the hiring of Clem to host a weekday afternoon show on Howard 101, his second channel on Sirius satellite radio, a subscription-based satellite radio service exempt from FCC regulations. The show launched on January the 9th, 2006. That would have been a sweet deal for him. With a network like that. There was big money around these networks at this time. In October 2006, Clem was sued by pornographic film actress Hope Miller, known professionally as Brooke Sky. She alleged that while performing on a radio program together with porn actress Melissa Harrington, can I say this on YouTube? Penetrated her with an oversized marital aid against her will and at Clem's urging.
Well, that's not cool.
That's really bad, man. Don't broadcast that, and don't do that. No. In 2007, a judge turned down a request by Clem's attorneys to dismiss the suit, indicating that there was enough evidence that Miller had a legitimate claim. I mean, yeah, it was broadcast on radio, so yeah, I would imagine so. The case was eventually voluntarily dismissed with prejudice. That's really fucking bad right there. He's just signed with Howard Stern, and like a case like that comes out, that's not a good look. In 2007, Clem was sued for defamation by competitor disc jockey Todd Schnitt, great name, over on-air remarks Clem made about Schnitt's family. A court ruled in Clem's favor, and Schnitt vowed to appeal. And that appeal went on for years and years and years and cost Clem a bunch of legal fees. In March 2013, 6 years later, after 13 hours of negotiation, Clem settled with Schnitt to the sum of like 6 figures. So that's another court case, another fine, another moment. And again, he's on Howard Stern's network. In 2008, it still keeps rolling though.
I feel like he shouldn't have been talking Schnitt.
he shouldn't have been talking shit about Schnitt's family. Clem began to host 2 shows a day in 2008, but that only lasted a year. I don't think he could manage the drive, because him and his crew aired an FCC compliant show on WHPT in the morning, followed by the uncensored program on Sirius in the afternoon. So he's basically there from the crack of dawn right the way through till the early evening, doing continuous shows, both different paces, different content. That's a lot of work. I did it, but I was in my 20s and it was okay. But yeah, that's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, that'll kill you.
That will, especially, he only lasted a year. In 2009, Sirius opted for just FM replays during the week and 1 live uncensored show on Friday afternoons. So in December 2010, Clem did not renew his contract with Sirius, moving to Radio IO, an internet radio service of which his agent Thomas Bean was CEO. That's very handy. Your agent is now your boss. Like,
dangerous.
I feel like that's a crazy decision to do. I feel like that's going to mess up business relationships. And also, like, isn't that a conflict of interest? Like, this agent who's taking a cut of your pay is also your boss who's paying you?
Yeah, that seems dumb.
That seems really fucking dumb. Anyway, Clem began broadcasting a live morning show from Tampa radio station WHPT 102.5 The Bone on January the 8th, 2008, which was simulcast on the Jacksonville radio station WFYV 104.5 Rock 105. During the second quarter of 2008, Bubba's show received a #1 rating in the Tampa market. He's the king of Tampa right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bubba the Love Sponge screams Tampa.
He is Tampa through and through. He is the epitome of that town. Even the Buccaneers can't match it. So,
like, you think of Tampa and you think Buccaneers, strip clubs, and Bubba the Love Sponge.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's around this time that his ability in the Tampa area and his ability to capture a very specific young male demographic comes into play when on the 3rd of January 2010, Bubba announced on his Twitter account that he had signed with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling as a backstage interviewer, TNA Wrestling, which was based in Tampa at the time. And 2010 was a really interesting era. TNA had been around for 8 years at this point. It was started by Jeff Jarrett, who'd taken the money he got from holding Vince McMahon up for a one-night pay deal of $275,000 because his contract had expired. And he had the Intercontinental Championship. And he's like, maybe I'll just fuck off with your belt, mate. And Vince was like, what do you want? He's like, I want $250,000. And Vince was like, fine, done. Drop the belt and go. So he took that money and started his own promotion when WCW folded. Very smart move. By 2010, TNA has built up this reputation as like the #2 company in America in wrestling. They've got homegrown stars. They're producing excellent shows. They're really innovative and interesting and exciting. And then in 2010, TNA hired Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, who brought in a bunch of washed up over the hill old WWE and WCW guys to try and compete directly with WWE Raw on Monday nights, the same time slot, just like WCW had done a few years earlier.
Eric Bischoff is so... I
hate Eric Bischoff. I know someone who has dealt with him personally. He is an awful person.
Yeah. Like, he's the reason reality TV sucks as bad as it does.
Yeah, he is the originator of that car crash TV, high level entertainment, like bright sky thing. He's done a lot of work in that arena, but really not a nice person. Anyway, so ex-WCW CEO Eric Bischoff and legendary Hulk Hogan joined TNA Wrestling. They bring in a bunch of their guys to go head-to-head with WWE Monday Night Raw have a new Monday Night War. And this competition lasts all of 10 weeks before TNA realized that Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff's egos had basically cost their parent company, Panda Energy, literally millions of dollars with no positive results. So if they had just stayed in their lane, they'd have just kept on like little bit of profit, because their pay-per-views never sold more than 60,000 buys.
Okay.
So, and like they were generally selling like 30,000, making 30,000 buys, $25, $30 a pop. You keep on doing that year after year, you'll make a little bit of profit every now and then, maybe make a bit of a loss, but you won't lose millions like they did with this deal.
It's a horrible thing to lose millions when you're trying to make money.
I know. And like
the
they don't
opposite.
have millions. So the company is really bad. Anyway, Bubba the Love Sponge's pay was huge because he was big in the Tampa area. They assumed that he'd bring a lot of his audience with him. It did not work. The ratings actually tanked. He made his debut the following day on the special live 3-hour Monday night edition of TNA Impact, participating in 4 backstage segments. Bubba instantly had backstage heat in TNA as Hulk Hogan's friend because he got more opportunities than the wrestlers believed he deserved, which, I mean, is fair. Also, the fans hated him, and wrestlers felt that he was acting like a bigger part of the show than he actually was. So he was throwing his weight around as well. Not a good thing to do in front of a bunch of wrestlers. Bubba started producing a weekly radio segment interview spot with Hogan. Hogan would come on, and it would basically be about TNA, what's happening this week and stuff. But they'd also take the time to like disparage certain wrestlers. Like, that's not going to endear you to your co-workers if you're slagging them off on your big time radio show.
Right.
Anyway, on January the 16th, 2010, Clem tweeted about the 2010 Haiti earthquake, saying he had tired of hearing about the relief efforts for the people of Haiti, writing "fuck Haiti" and calling the ensuing deaths of hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children in Haiti a cleansing.
Boy.
Yeah.
That's shitty.
That's really stupid and horrible. And why would you do that? I mean, it got him attention, but that is not the right kind of attention. He later apologized, but TNA management nonetheless temporarily removed him from the air. But he was still backstage. So, backstage, let me introduce you to the next part of this story. A woman called Kia Stevens, who was working for TNA at the time as Awesome Kong. A tough as fucking nails female wrestler who'd made her name in Japan. She's 6 foot tall and 280 pounds, mostly muscle. So she'd been over in Japan for like a decade. She came back to the United States for a legendary run with the company back when women's wrestling wasn't really that good. She was amazing, and she put on these great shows with much smaller female wrestlers who would like make. They would just tell these David versus Goliath stories, and it was really, really interesting. She would go on to star in the Netflix wrestling series Glow as the character Welfare Queen. Yeah. And as tough and terrifying as she was in TNA, she is really good in this role as Welfare Queen. It's really moving at times, and I feel like she famously in wrestling, she signed with WWE as Karma, came in for a few months and then had to leave because she was pregnant, and then she had a miscarriage and sort of disappeared from wrestling for a while. Really, really sad. And I feel like she maybe used some of that in her portrayal of the Welfare Queen and like the emotion that caused anyway. So she's backstage, and I'll tell you more about this incident. On January the 19th, 2010, Bubba the Love Sponge claimed that he had been blindsided and physically assaulted by Awesome Kong while backstage for the taping of TNA Impact the previous day. According to TNA, Awesome Kong, and Clem, all three of them, the altercation was because of Clem's tweets about Haiti. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you...
dumb stuff and you get popped. Ha ha.
You say some stuff and you get popped by a woman who is bigger than you, tougher than you, and even though you're a bouncer, you can't even take it. So I'm going to give you 2 accounts now. Let me start by giving you Mick Foley's, New York Times best-selling author and legendary wrestler Mick Foley's brilliant, measured, and sensible assessment of the situation. And then I want to follow it up with the hilarious Carney version from the man who killed WCW, Vince Russo, who was also backstage. So this is Mick Foley's version. As some of you have heard, there was, let me say, an incident involving Bubba the Love Sponge and Awesome Kong backstage at last week's Impact taping. Apparently, Miss Kong took issues with recent comments Bubba had made regarding the disaster in Haiti, a cause that has been very near to Kong's and then brackets, who I will alternately refer to as Kia Hart. A couple of weeks ago on the Foley Files, which was Mick Foley's podcast at the time, I mentioned a fundraiser that Kia had put together on very short notice to aid the victims of the horrific earthquake, with all the proceeds going directly to the Red Cross. I was so proud of Kia, the fans, and TNA wrestlers who took part, including me, and within just a few days, the Wrestlers for Haiti crew had donated over $5,000. So, given Kia's emotional investment in the situation, it's really not surprising that Bubba's words were just a little on the painful side for her to read. A situation that was important to her was seemingly being mocked in a fairly ugly way by a TNA on-air talent, though I'm sure TNA fans will think I'm throwing that talent word around a little too liberally here. That's a nice burn, Mick. That's really funny. She probably should have handled the situation differently, and in retrospect, I think even Kia would admit that she may have let her emotions get the best of her. I happen to like both people involved, and no, I'm not just saying that because Bubba is Hogan's buddy, but I do think this situation illustrates how certain incidents, tragedies, natural disasters affect different people in such extremely different ways. How different people or types of people are moved differently or not at all by certain situations. That's really measured. Mick Foley's a sweetheart. Like, he's walking a really nice, fine line there. He's trying to see both sides, trying to explain why people react the way they do.
Yeah, he tried to say it really fairly, and I think he said it really soft and fair.
Absolutely. And he's seeing both sides of it, saying that, it was a nasty incident. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. Now, let me tell you what Vince Russo said. Bro, I saved Bubba the Love Sponge's life. I pulled Kong off Bubba. I was the first one on the scene, and I pulled her off him. She was wailing on him, and there was blood everywhere.
Oh, boy.
And he was doing one of these gimmicks.
Oh, he just balled up.
Yeah, he just balled up and went fetal. No one liked the guy. Bischoff congratulated her on it afterwards.
Oh. Ouch.
It gets worse. Like, he was a bloody mess after this. She beat the shit out of him.
I mean, sometimes your words have consequences.
I know. Do you remember when we covered that Lee, that MMA guy from the UK who was in an armed robbery, who would just go around punching people in the street, and then one day someone stabbed him?
Yeah.
Because you just can't go around thinking there are no consequences to your actions. And Bubba found out you say awful things after a disaster, and then you get the shit beaten out of you. Oh my goodness. Joining us now on air is the familiar Wilson's Media. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh. Oh, it's so good to have you on. Thank you so much. You joined us in the middle of Bubba the Love Sponge. So, yeah. So he's just been beaten up by Awesome Kong backstage at a wrestling event that he's been suspended from working on. But it gets worse. On February the 25th, news broke that Awesome Kong had filed a lawsuit against Clem for an alleged threatening phone call. And I say alleged, he did it on air. So there's no alleged about it.
Oh,
really.
That's a phone call.
It's the dumbest fucking thing. On the Cowhead show, so he didn't even do it on his own show, Clem confronted Kong in a live call where he called her house.
Oh,
like, fucking hell.
Dude.
It sounds like they really enjoyed that first beating.
Yeah.
So,
why don't you beat the hell out of me again, man?
Where you are. She will find you. Holy shit, this guy is so stupid. Clem returned to TNA television as the personal interviewer of wrestling stable The Band. No idea who that is. In late March, only to be fired from the company on April 30th, 2010 as a result of the Cowhead show incident. Yeah, because he threatened one of his co-workers. And changing my name to Josh the Annoyance Broom. Nice. That's actually a better name than Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It is a much more memorable name, to be honest. So he's been fired from TNA. He lasted all of 4 months. Again, it's about his standard tenure at this point, unfortunately. In 2012, Clem started a 4-year relationship with Nicole Lange. In February 2017, she requested an order of protection against Clem, claiming he had abused her emotionally and physically. Clem denied the allegations, and the claim was settled out of court that March. It's not a good 2012 for him.
No.
Let's get to the big one. This is where it all goes wrong. In early 2012, it was reported that Bubba the Love Sponge had secretly filmed his wife, Heather Clem, and Hulk Hogan having sex in his bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. He did that.
Oh, yeah.
On October the 4th, 2012, Gorka released a short clip of the video. In the clip, Clem can be heard. This is really weird. Clem can be heard saying that the couple can do their thing. Well, and he'll be in his office. And then it cuts. So this is a short clip. It cuts to, bow chicka wow wow. And at the end of the video, Clem can be heard telling his wife Heather, after Hogan has left, if we ever need to retire, here's our ticket.
Oh,
why would you say that? It sounds like you're going to blackmail someone.
Sounds like you're going to blackmail somebody.
Yeah.
And you did it on tape.
Tape. Yes. Also, it gets even worse. Obviously, Hulk Hogan's furious.
Yeah.
So
that's your buddy.
Yeah, that's your best friend.
And you're already rich.
You're already rich. Also, like, they've clearly come to some sort of arrangement here.
Right.
For Hogan, who is going through a divorce, to have intimate relations with Bubba's wife. That's fine. He didn't know about the camera. That's really bad. But it gets worse because there was stuff in the full video, and I don't want to watch it, but before the brother stuff starts happening, he has this whole rant about his daughter who has started dating an African-American gentleman. Yeah. And he drops the N word, and it's Bubba and his team decide to leak that. And that is the end of Hulk Hogan's career in WWE for years. They only bring him back when Vince McMahon thinks, we can make some money off this guy again.
Right.
But he is persona non grata for like half a decade. And he misses out on millions and millions of dollars of paid work, of special events, merchandise. His merch disappears, and that's like a huge seller.
Do you think that was the whole purpose of the recording, is that he just wanted to get him being a racist because he'd been being all racist-y the whole time? And he was like, why don't you bang my wife so I can get you saying racist things?
He's basically he's getting some ammunition against Hogan, who, despite going through a divorce, is still a very wealthy man. So anyway, Hogan files a lawsuit, shocker, against the Clems for invading his privacy. Anyway, Clem settled the suit on October the 29th, 2012. Millions of dollars are handed over to Hulk Hogan in the settlement. Basically, every penny that Bubba the Love Sponge has. But Hogan's not done. He's fucking fuming because the website that leaked it was Gorka, part of a huge media conglomerate. And following the settlement, Clem apologizes to Hogan, but Hogan goes on to sue Gorka Media for publishing the tape, and a jury of 6 award Hogan more than $140 million in March 2016.
Wow.
That's a lot of money. Gorka announced that it would appeal. Yeah, they're not going to say, yeah, okay, fair enough. As it was disappointed that the jury was unable to hear Clem's testimony. I'm not sure that would have helped you so much.
Like, yeah, I'm not sure
what he would have
brought
with this recording, Bubba.
Yeah.
Anyway, they decided to settle with Hogan, and Hogan was like, I'll take a little bit less than 140 million. What can you afford? $31 million.
That's
still a shitload of money. Yeah. In November 2016, it went bankrupt thereafter. And I have no sympathy for anyone involved in this entire situation, to be honest. It's sad that Hogan had his privacy invaded. It's just a whole weird set of circumstances. I have very little sympathy for Gorka, who knew exactly what they were doing. It's a really horrible thing that they did, and they produced a really incredibly biased documentary that you can watch on Netflix about the whole thing about, oh my god, well, when does this line draw? When can you just silence the media? No, you leaked a person's sex tape. Don't try and take the fucking high road.
Yeah,
No.
leaking a sex tape isn't really media unless it's like a politician doing something illegal.
Exactly.
Like
This
doing
isn't
something
journalism.
that's two consenting adults with the permission of the other consenting adult's significant other.
Exactly. And one of
And
them didn't
without the
think he was being
consent of-
filmed.
Yeah, without the consent of a filmed partner.
That's really horrible. And, anyone who's had a sex tape of them leaked without their permission, without, planting it with the media, which some people have done, I have a lot of sympathy because that's a horrible thing to have to experience. You feel completely violated. So, yeah, Hogan deserves $31 million. Not so keen on the whole dropping the N-word thing. That was awful. So, fuck him for that. But, yeah, awful. Anyway, this is Bubba's, he's done. He's fucked financially at this point. He's handed over all of his money to Hulk Hogan, and rightly so. But in August 2013, it gets worse. In August 2013, an audio tape was released on YouTube of Clem voicing a commercial for Vermont Teddy Bears. No idea what that is. Vermont Teddy Bear. Anyway, in the commercial, Clem makes racist remarks, but denied being racist. Said, "I never said the word in that manner ever." But you did say it. We have the recording, Bubba. So, yeah. He believed the audio was leaked from someone who had access to his world. I mean, no shit. And the audio bits were taken from recordings when he worked at Clear Channel. Clem's company, Bubba Radio Network, ordered the removal of the video from YouTube. But it's now hosted on TMZ.
Uh-oh.
So that ain't going nowhere. I never thought I'd say this, but good on you, TMZ.
Well, gosh. See, the thing is with people saying words and saying stuff that they shouldn't have said before and then having it come out later.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I've probably said, I'm going to go out and say, I've definitely said words that I've not should have said.
Yeah.
They've probably been on tape. I've not always been a good person. I've not always been a good person to other people. I've used inappropriate words and languages, and they may be on tape out there somewhere. And yeah, that sucks. And hopefully it doesn't take me down someday. And I don't think that it can because I own it. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Exactly. And like you said, listen, no one's an angel. Everyone's done wrong in their life. I think given when we were recording radio, very different time. I'm not saying that I ever said anything deliberately offensive for shock value, but I definitely think there are elements of the things I broadcast in my career that were probably not so great in today's light. I don't think I was ever saying anything derogatory, but I can guarantee I never said anything racist while I was being recorded.
I can't guarantee that.
Okay.
But I can't say that I haven't changed or recognized the error of my ways and how wrong and unreal things were and where my mindset was gone astray.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't related to radio or any sort of shock value sort of stuff. It was just dumbness.
And the lesson, of course, with this, and we've got more to cover, so I'll get to it in a minute. But no, it's okay. But no, you're right. People who make mistakes and who say things and do things, and if they are contrite and they are working on bettering themselves, don't pile on them constantly. The problem is that Bubba the Love Sponge does not seem to be showing any contrition or remorse.
Yeah, well, and also one thing I've never done is tried to tape my buddy to blackmail him, or anybody for that matter, doing the same thing I've already done.
I know, you talk to people before you film them, right? Well, even in the age of social media, you still got to do that shit.
The thing that took down Hulk Hogan was him saying the N-word on that video and being racist and things, and now he's having it happen to him from before that happened, and it's like, dude, you can't. Yeah, you can't do something you've done to that's where it's wrong. Yeah.
It's a whole really messy situation, but Bubba's having a terrible time of it at this point, and it gets even worse if that was possible, because in 2015 Bubba's show ratings came under investigation for possible Nielsen ratings tampering. In December 2016, his show was cancelled on his local Tampa station WBRN. He was juicing his numbers. In October 2015, Nielsen sued Clem for $1 million. He's got no money left at this point, over allegations of tampering with the rating system by offering to pay several Nielsen panelists to manipulate the ratings by saying they listened to his show more than they did. Clem admitted to paying one person to manipulate the ratings, but Nielsen claimed that he'd actually paid a bunch of people to do that.
See, the neat thing with the Nielsen's rating systems is if you paid one person, it impacts as though you paid a bunch of people because it's a select amount of people in, like, it's a. Exactly. And at that time, they went to the pager system, so it would have been they would have just had to tune in 2 people with that pager system, taking in those numbers to dramatically skew numbers.
Exactly. Nielsen's ratings have always mystified me because it's such an easily manipulated thing.
It's worse than the algorithm.
For sure. Like, the algorithm is at least based in programming. The Nielsen's is based in, like, okay, we believe you. Like you were watching this. You were, okay, that's fine. Let's just assume that was 950,000 people. So it is crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's no different in the UK. We've had a bunch of mystifying ratings that were never really quantified until, like, thank God for data and data analysis now, because now we have the actual numbers. Like, we can say we have 50,000 listens because they're counted by our fucking parent hosting station. So, you know, it's much easier. Anyway, Clem admitted to paying one person. Nielsen said he paid a bunch. Clem's lawyer filed a motion asking that Nielsen's lawsuit be dismissed. He loves filing those motions, but it was denied by the judge. After years of trial delays, Clem and Nielsen settled out of court on July the 6th, 2018. I mean, he's got nothing left after the Hogan lawsuit and the Nielsen lawsuit. Millions have gone.
So, he's got like $1.50 and a bus pass at this point.
Basically, yeah. And that's where we catch up with him in 2019. The Tampa Bay Times released an article following up with Bubba because he was now broke and living in a trailer park. It said that in the 2000s, he was earning around $2.5 million a year. But by 2019, his 6,367 square foot St. Petersburg house was listed for $1.3 million as foreclosure also as well. Records show he owes $47,000 in past due property taxes and owed close to $200,000 to the IRS as of August 2018. He tried to auction off his house for $900,000 in September of that year, but got no bids. So that's difficult. After that, Bubba gave away his 10-year-old rescue pit bull, Peaches, saying he could not afford her specialized veterinary care. That's really fucking sad.
That sucks.
That might be the most hurtful thing I've heard in this entire story.
That makes me want to, like, figure out how to get him a GoFundMe to get his dog back. That sucks.
That's really sad. Unfortunately, I mean, the dog did get rehomed, but it's now passed away. So yeah, well, but it had a good life after it left Bubba. So there's
that seems fair. Now, he couldn't auction off his house. Did he Kanye it and rip out all the electric or what?
I didn't know Kanye had done that. Did he do that?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
He went all Saul Goodman's brother and ripped out the electric, and now he can't sell his mansion.
That man is really unwell.
Yeah. But he's got a Kim clone.
He's got a Kim clone, so who cares? Whatever makes you happy, dude. But maybe leave the Hitler stuff alone. So yeah, anyway, this is a quote from Bubba. "This is hard for me to admit, but I've had my water turned off," he says. "I had to go to my neighbor, Richard Fabrizi, just to borrow a few $100 to get it turned back on." Wow.
That is a bummer, man.
That is bad, man. He had millions of dollars every year coming in, and now he's living in a trailer. Bubba says he takes responsibility for the Nielsen's rating scandal and his role in the Hulk Hogan sex tape. What do you mean your role? It was you. Yeah. Anyway, Bubba says he's not going to put his head down. He's just going to put his head down and do the best Dan show ever heard in this town, taking the high road with fart jokes.
Okay.
There's more, though. Don't feel too bad for him. He's made something of a comeback. And
all right.
I would never wish misery and destitution on anyone. So he's doing okay for himself. He's still the president, CEO, and host of the Bubba Radio Network. And he has 112,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel.
Okay.
So doing okay there. He's got 250,000 followers on social media and a range of hilariously shit merchandise available on his website. The Bubba Army. There's a whole branding thing as well, but also like exclusive things, including a 2010 TNA wrestler TriStar New Era Bubba the Love Sponge rookie card. For $99.99, he got a rookie card.
Huh.
Hilarious.
So, like, if I get a female wrestler to beat my ass, you think we can get 250,000 followers on YouTube?
Sure.
Because I'll do it. I mean, I'm not going to talk crap on Haiti, but I'll just let somebody beat me up.
Yeah, I'll take a beating for $250,000. Are you kidding me?
No, followers. I don't even care about the money. I bet you the money will
money
come.
Too. Yeah. I will let you. It'll be like bum fights, only slightly better paid. So that's where we kind of leave Bubba. He's doing okay. I don't want anyone to worry and think that this man is now miserable and living in destitution. He has gone on to do a bunch of really weird. Of course, he's done a bunch of like alt-right stuff, but like I don't think we're ever going to get any different version of Bubba the Love Sponge. And he is not a great person from what we can tell, but I don't really wish him any ill will. I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's got a quiet life now, because it sounds like he's had a lot through his own doing, but he's had a rough few years in the 2010s.
Yeah, he had a rough few years living in a van down by the river there, all Chris Farley for a minute.
Much he really did. Just fixing his belt like that. I'm okay with him doing fine now. He's got a little niche. He's carved it out. I think the days of the nationally syndicated, hugely successful Bubba the Love Sponge money train are gone. But I hope he can take some solace in being older now, because he's in his, he was born in the 60s. So, he's pushing 60. I hope he can kind of settle back and live a decent life and maybe make a bit of money while he's doing it.
Yeah, so. I think that he can. I gotta say though, it drives me nuts to see that like Bubba the Love Sponge and the Sticky guy and all of them doing so well on their YouTube channels and their podcast numbers, and they still got such a the audience is bigger than ours, and I think our show is better. We're not mean. I've never been beaten up or told Haiti people that they suck. Well, I've been beaten up a lot, but never by a female wrestler.
Yeah. If only. But give it time. Yeah. Maybe someone other than Awesome Kong, though. Maybe one of the smaller ones. Like I prefer. If
I could get a little person female wrestler to beat me up, I'd be all over that.
Oh yeah, and that would go viral so quick. So get in touch with Derek. Maybe you can involve some of the art in the brawl as well. Just have that in the background as well. But I get what you mean. What you have is someone who's got residual fame, and that lingers kind of for a very long time, especially if you connect with a subgroup of people or like a segment or a specific market, and those people develop very strong connections with you. That will stay with you for a very long time. This is why you still have, men, women, families in their 40s going to like reunions for boy bands and stuff, because they found this connection with this person at a very specific point in their life, and they're loyal to that person to the very end. So I understand why the audience exists. I don't think Bubba is really as great as he probably thought he was. He had good segments and good segment ideas, but he had a team of like 12 people working with him. So if you don't have good segments with that many people on staff, then you're doing something really wrong. So
Yeah, you know what's weird is I never had a staff. It was always
no,
just me and like one or two other people just trying our ass off to do it
yeah,
with stuff that was like taped together and put together with bubble gum. But
basically,
yeah,
yeah, it was me and one producer. And that
yeah.
was it. It was no one ever had the budget in the regional markets for a big crew of people. But I think once you get syndicated and like you have advertiser revenue behind you and like really specific sponsors who like, oh my god, we stick with this person through thick and thin, then you can get a team of crack people and you can really grow that business. So
And all you got to do is be horrible at naming yourself and
terrible. And start up a bunch of pager businesses. Like, what on earth is that about? But
I'm bringing that back.
oh, yeah. Could you imagine? I think there's an entire generation out there that have missed the joy of pages. Of how
Indeed.
exciting they were, you know?
I'm bringing payphones back too.
Yeah, I miss payphones. That you can actually, you know what? They still have them in some parts of London, and they
Really?
are very useful. Yeah, there are payphones still in London, and actually, this is the really cool thing. When I was in London recently, ironically, meeting up with Josh Wilson, they have some of the old telephone booths. They have turned them, the ones that don't smell of piss. They've turned them into charging stations for mobile phones. So you
Oh,
go in, you shut the door behind you, and there's like a little stool, like a little built-in, like semicircular stool that you sit on. You just put your phone on the little stand where the phone used to be, just plug it in, and you can charge it there, free.
that's a pretty brilliant idea.
It's really fucking good. And also, like, if you just want to get out of the rain, just chill out and be by yourself in a major city for a while, go in a phone box and charge your phone. That's fine. You know?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That's a really good idea. But anyway, so Bubba the Love Sponge, it's I've tried to be as positive as possible with this guy. There's been a lot of shit that he has done and had to deal with in his life, and I feel like if he'd just done half of the crazy shit that he'd done, he probably would be as successful as ever now. Because Howard Stern's still doing well.
Yeah, he
You know?
is. And I think a lot of it is the craft and your
Mm,
intention behind what your pranks are. And
for sure.
like you've got to know why you're making the jokes and what makes them funny. Is it the absurdity of it, or
Mhm.
are you just doing it to try and poke fun at somebody?
Yeah, are you being nasty or are you walking an artistic line? Also, can you justify it? That's one thing I always liked about South Park is that whenever they got censorship notes back, whenever they were doing a film and stuff, they would always justify. They'd be able to say why there was a specific crazy ass joke in a specific place. They'd always be able to justify them. And that's because they're intelligent and they genuinely do want to have these things make sense. So if Bubba had thought about it more, he probably would have gotten away with it, but he just kept getting fine after fine after court case after court case, and that will have set him back. Eventually, you
Yeah.
become a liability, and people don't want to work with you. So,
Yeah. Well, and I would say that most of this was bad decision making,
mm,
some bad luck,
yeah,
and a lot of bad naming. And I think I would give him probably 62.
I would say 62 is fair. He's not killed anyone, and a lot of this stuff is allegations, so we don't know 100% for sure if the stuff with his wife. I mean, I believe that he definitely doesn't seem like a great person to live with, but we never know whether there's truth in this and the conflicts with other presenters and the stuff with the FCC. Like they were finding everyone at this time, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff, like you say, some of it will come down to luck, some of it will be bad decision making, but I just feel like if he just twisted some of it, if he just thought about some of this stuff just a little bit more, just put
Yeah.
5 more minutes of thought into it and just think, maybe we change that segment a little bit. Maybe I don't do this decision. Maybe I don't tweet this thing about Haiti. Just your life is a little bit different. But anyway, that's hindsight. It's 2020. You can't go back and change the past, the things that you've done, the things that have happened to you as a result of those actions. You've just got to live with them and try and make the most of each day. And I do hope that Bubba has at least taken some of the lessons, and he seems to have done, from the 2019 quotes. He's like, listen, don't blame anyone for the Hulk Hogan or the Nielsen thing. That was me. It seems like he has taken it on board, and that's the great thing about life, is that you are given plenty of opportunities to turn your life around and look at the mistakes and realize that actually, sometimes you are the villain in your own story, and you just need to change who you are so that you're not always that person. And Bubba seems to have done that, whereas our first person there, what was his name again?
Daniel Dancer.
Daniel Dancer, great name. That's a much better name than Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yes.
Great name. He did not learn because he was mentally ill, but also because society was structured in a way that he couldn't get any help. So
true. It was the 1700s. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? There's no interventions in the 1700s. There's just bankruptcy and destitution. So the lesson is help the people that you know need help in situations when they are clearly displaying signs of mental illness. But also, if someone is going down a bad path, try and help them to avoid going down that path if you can, because they'll go through a lot of pain before they realize they fucked up, which Bubba did.
Yeah.
So,
and don't film your friends banging your wife.
Yeah, don't film your friends banging your wife, especially when your friend is a gigantic orange, like just series of like pigs sewn together in human form. That's like Hulk Hogan was in his 50s at this point. This isn't prime Hulk Hogan with the slightly receding hairline. This is the my hips are going Hulk Hogan. So,
oh man,
yeah, that man's spine is jello right now because of all the fucking leg drops over the years.
Unfortunate.
Really bad. Anyway, he's very wealthy now, so I'm sure he's got a brand new spine made of all gold. So thank you guys all so much. I had a lot of fun. I didn't really know how much shit there was with Bubba the Love Sponge before I started this. I knew some bits, but I didn't realize the quantity of the mistakes until I researched it. So
yeah, I wasn't aware either, and I'm learned all kinds of stuff.
I know
it was fun.
The fact that he's called Clem is amazing.
Yeah, the fact that he missed the opportunity of being Bubba the Love Clam.
I know, it's right there, and I'm sure in high school somebody at some point called him Clam.
Had to,
guaranteed that somebody did that. Like, if you've got an even slightly interesting name, someone's going to destroy you with that for years, because that's what happens when you're a child, apparently. So yeah, Bubba the Love Sponge, 65. Did you say 62? Good score.
Give him a D.
Yes, and nice score for Bubba there. And who, remind me again of the name?
Daniel Dancer.
Daniel Dancer. I was going with Magic. Dancer. Daniel Dancer gets an even 50 for hoarding and not having the facility to be able to stop doing that, but that's not really his fault. So yeah, I had a lot of fun researching this. I had a lot of fun listening to yours. Again, like I say, you hear stories like that quite regularly, actually, far too regularly for it to not be a point in society where we would be like, we need to have like a sequence of events that happens when we realize someone is hoarding and living well below their means and actually putting themselves in danger. There needs to be a sequence of events so that we can help them.
Yeah.
And this is Daniel Dancer is the first real example of that, I think. And thank you all so much for listening to our show, and thank you for 50,000 listens on Spotify. I think if you quantify that with all the other stations and Apple, we're at like 70,000. That's really cool for me.
Yeah, there's so many people listening. Hi.
I know. Thank you so much. Thank you. We honestly don't know why, but thank you all so much. We love you. And if a percentage of you would like to go and follow us on patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots, not only can you get access to behind the scenes stuff, such as Derek's recent holiday and me talking to a robin and also talking about Crohn's disease, and a bunch of like specific Patreon exclusives, and also scripts and gifts and all of that good stuff, go to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots. We're also on Instagram at History's Greatest Idiots, and also on YouTube. Just search for History's Greatest Idiots and you'll find us. We'll be right there. We put a little reel up, and it's a short up, and it's done really well.
Yeah,
I think it's the Nicolas Cage face.
It is
really
a great face.
The first thing you see, and and also the title is Elon in Space, so immediately you're going to get that crowd clicking on it, because who wouldn't? We got 3 downvotes because they're like, Elon's not in space. What are you doing? That's a lie. We got 3
I'm so
downvotes.
happy.
We got 3 downvotes and 77 upvotes, so it's fine. We're doing fine. The ratios.
I'm just happy to get downvotes.
Yeah, thank you for the downvotes, you anonymous arseholes. But yeah, we'll see you all again in a couple of weeks. I've had a lot of fun with this. Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody.
And we'll see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye.